आपको सीधे ले चलते हैं नोएडा की अमिटी यूनिवर्सिटी, जहां पर इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस का दूसरा दिन आयोजित है,
which is sustainable innovation in the gig economy. And before we move ahead with the panelists and take their viewpoints into consideration, let me give you a brief about it. So basically today, the gig economy is often spoken about in terms of flexibility and freedom, but rarely in terms of sustainability. So here we are going to talk more about how can we make it sustainable, what could be the things that need to be kept in mind while we talk about sustainability of the gig economy. And now, a brief introduction of the gig economy. So basically what began as platform-based work in mobility and delivery has now expanded into high-skill, knowledge-driven roles. So essentially, we generally associate gig economy with frontline workers, say delivery guys or the cab drivers and people in between. But the concept as of today is way different. It's far wide, which also includes consulting, research, analytics, design, education, and even a strategic advisory. And these are just few of the things that I'm speaking about. Even a huge production set or a movie which is being made also falls under this category that we can discuss in this panel. And in India alone, the gig workforce has grown from about 7.7 million in the year 2021 to nearly 12 million in the year 2025, and projections suggest that it can move to 7% of the India's employment by the year 2030, and currently it is at 2%. If we talk about the last statistics. So without further ado, I would like to invite our first panelist, who is Mr. Harsh Kumar Singh, Head of Department Learning and Development, Business Development and PM Project Task Force Monitoring, Tata Power Delhi Distribution Limited, to tell us about this topic. So basically to give his opening remarks on this topic.
Thank you, Avantika. And thank you, Amity School of Business, for giving me and all of us opportunity to interact with the upcoming generation, who would certainly, people from institute like Amity would definitely bring changes in the business perspective. I guess we are having a post-lunch session. Is there anyone who has not used Zomato, Blinkit, Ola, Uber? So I guess everyone is awake, and we have been part of this gig economy day in and day out. No, so it's not something new which will hear out. But obviously, as a startup, as an entrepreneur, and as a large enterprise where I work, contextually things changes, and we even witnessed a recent debate wherein ministry, Blinkit, 10-minute delivery tagline all become a national subject. So it's a right time when we are having this session, which, and with young minds in front of us, will definitely yield something out of this panel discussion. So the overall take is, while we understand gig economy in terms of its outcome-based model, freelance, flexibility, task-based model, either through platforms or individually connections people operate, the bigger perspective which is missing in the entire set is governance, safety, and dignity of people who gets involved. So it's primarily, larger perspective is the governance, which gets missed. And in fact, International Labour Commission or World Economic Forum qualifies this as something which is not traditional employment opportunity. But considering the context where people operate 12 to 14 hours a day to earn their livelihood, days are not far when some laws or regulations will certainly bring this aspect also under employability. Frameworks would be different, but that's where the thin line remains, and a challenge remains for startups and enterprise who use this concept more than larger enterprise who works primarily on a permanent employability basis.
Thank you, Mr. Harsh. Now we have Mr. Sonal Sehgal, who is the CEO of Global Honeybee. I would request him to share his opening remarks on the topic.
Thank you, Avantika, and thank you, Amity, for inviting. And I would completely agree with Harsh's remarks that, I would like to, further add on to Harsh's remarks only that if we consider gig economy as a new revolution in terms of, it's just not an side hustle anymore, It's not that, okay, earlier we used to think, okay, I'm doing a permanent first primary job and then there's a side hustle or that's a hobby I'm pursuing. But this is not a hobby anymore. This is basically, if we largely look at it as, employment equalizer in terms of let's say I'm a consultant or I'm doing strategic consulting for certain large scale organizations, and at the same time I would want to pursue a different gig that gives me, so the gig economy enables me to invest my time wisely, and certainly the payments here are certainly outcome basis. Looking at the context or the topic for today, which is primarily focusing on sustainability. So yes, agreeing with your 3 points, governance and 2 others, that there has to be there. So this is okay. So completely agreeing with the points. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Sonal, for your opening remarks. Now I would like to call upon Mr. Naveen Tandon, who is the director from Deloitte, to share opening remarks on this topic.
Is everyone awake? Hi. So, I think a very valid point made by both Mr. Harsh and Sonal. Let me also add a perspective to it. What boardrooms are thinking today, right? What is keeping a CEO awake in the night, right? So if you go back not much before COVID, any talent mandate was restricted till a CHRO level. And, even at a CEO's level or a CXO level, the idea was more around, how's my manpower cost looking like? Are we under control? But today when we talk about gig economy, it's one of the major driver in terms of how should I define my workforce strategy? How should I train my workforce? And I'm sure Harsh will relate a lot with that. And the third part is, while I'm in a business of probably, let's say, selling gold jewelries, but can I do something which differentiates me? And for such differentiation, do I really need to go and spend huge amount of money in terms of building that capability within my company? Are there any equations that I can trigger where my fixed cost of investment is low, but my ROI from that capability is still in alignment with what I as the CEO or my company envisages? So I think while gig, the way we have seen it progressing, has primarily at the bottom of the pyramid, but like Sonal rightly mentioned, it has reached till the top. I would say CXO -1 today, the roles, none of these hirings are not going through a filter of a gig hire. Most of these hiring strategies, first checkpoint is, can we get somebody who's an expert, leverage them, and at the same time derive value out of it, which is maximum for my organization and delivers a lot more value as compared to what I would do in a traditional way. So I think that's one topic that I would like to float along with the topics which Harsh and Sonal have talked about.
Thank you, Mr. Naveen. Now we have Mr. Rahul Jain, who is the founder and director of Guftagu. So we would like to invite you to share your opening remarks. From there. Mic is.
First of all, thank you everyone, and thank you to Amity they have organized such a wonderful conference and invited us. First of all, I'm not delivered from there because I want to wake up after the lunch, so that's why I'm here. And moreover, this house is houseful, so let's have a big round of applause for the house also. So want to have one show of hand from all the part of the audiences, that how many of you are connected to gig economy? How many of you are connected to gig economy? Only one gentleman out there? Aren't you using Zomato, Uber, as sir was mentioning, YouTube, Instagram, all of us are using it. Yes or no? Yes or no? So do you want to flourish in this gig economy? Do you want to flourish? Do you want to grow? Yes or no? Yes, so we all want to grow in this gig economy. At the onset of this today, in fact, last 10 days we had huge agreements. FTA had been done with Europe, trade deal with US. So there's a huge opportunity for India. And we all know that Indian economy is growing a lot. But as an entrepreneur, as an aspirational professional, how can we leverage this? So I'll just share a few points about this. First of all, we can leverage this movement. India is like a creative back office. So can we leverage our creativity? Yes or no? Yeah, so we can leverage our creativity because all of us are now using Insta and everything at our own will. So we can utilize that tool for our advantage. So there's a huge opportunity of exports. Then of course AI is there. There's a huge kind of pressure from AI also on software industry, but on the other side there is a huge kind of opportunity. There is a lot of work of AI implementation, AI automation. So all kind of these things can be handled by creative gigs. Then another opportunity is about Bharat. So local economy, vernacular language, so that also creates a lot of opportunity for all of us. Yes or no? But gig economy is not just about scalability. Of course, scalability is important, but then sustainability is equally important. Now the issues have come towards sustainability. So that's why I say gig is give inclusive growth. What is gig? Give inclusive growth. So we should focus on towards that. And 2 or 3 points I want to share with respect to give inclusive growth is, first is using the technology which can improve our efficiencies and which can reduce the different kind of overheads. So like sir was mentioning, using our core competency and outsourcing the other activities. So what's our competitive advantage? Let's focus towards that. And of course, India is also now known for UPI, the tech efficiencies that we have brought in. So public stack we can use in our own different ways. Another point, the last point which I want to share is that to convert this opportunity into entrepreneurship is very much important for gig, because gig people, these are more unorganized. So how can we have our own peer circle, gig founders, gig creative professionals? There Guftgu is working towards that. We have peer circle where we can bounce our ideas amongst each other and leverage each other's strength. So that's why there is one quotation which I will end with, that future of work is not full-time or part-time. Future of work is not full-time or part-time. Future of work is purpose time. Future of work is purpose time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rahul Jain. And now we have our last panelist, Shalini Ravla, who is founder and CEO of the Key LLP. We would like to have your opening comments on the same.
Thank you, Avantika. Thank you so much for being here. You're in large numbers, and I hope this discussion is equally educative as well as exciting as I'm finding it so far and thus far. I'm sure you guys are also looking forward to it. Now, I want to kind of draw 3 words from the topic of discussion, which is sustainability, gig economy, and innovation. Okay? So, out of these 3 words, which is the oldest word? Okay, let me make it simpler. Which is the newest word? Guys, wake up. Any ideas? Which is the newest concept? Or which is the oldest concept? Is the oldest one. Okay, I was about to say bang on, but then no, sustainability is the oldest one. Gig economy is the newest one. Who said it? Somebody here said it, yeah. Why is gig economy the newest one? Because it's the child of COVID, okay? We had not heard of gig before that. We had not heard of words like work from home, right? Moonlighting, side hustles. We had not heard of those words at all. This happened post-COVID. Why is sustainability the oldest concept? Because it started long ago. When? 18th century. Can you believe it? It's not a new concept. What we see today of sustainability is actually a morphed or metamorphosed version of what we had in the 18th century. How it began was with in Europe, when you were cutting wood, okay, for lighting, fuel, etc., everything, they were cutting wood and they all thought, what should we do to conserve this wood for the future generations? Because we'd be completely, burning the wood and there will be nothing left for the future generations. So let's start conserving wood. Then it transformed into protection acts, environment protection acts. It's only in the 80s, the sustainability as we know it today actually started existing, where it was not just about the protection of the environment, but it was the interconnectedness of the human and environment. So it's not just the human's impact on environment, but it's also the impact of environment on human beings and their lives. That's where your all these gentlemen and panelists have actually talked about the dignity of work. So it's not just that, environment is working on its own, okay? So I have just one thing to say to you, that if sustainability is the oldest one, how does it coexist with the newest concept of gig economy? When I say gig, now if it is new, you are all gig workers going to be, okay? Because it's not as if you'll be settling yourself for a 9-to-5 job, because I'm sure there are many people who want to do startup, okay? Without having any corporate experiences, people are now getting into building their own companies. That's a new thing that we are seeing. And even I'm a gig worker. I had a corporate experience of 15 years, then I started my own company. So I'm an ex-corporate gigger, okay? There are people who have just been focusing on their skills, like actors, producers, directors, photographers. They are the skill-based people who are the giggers, skill giggers. Okay, so there are many kinds and many motivations. So my only discussion would be on how do we redefine sustainability in the light of this new gig economy, and where does innovation come into play? And that's what I'd be focusing on.
Thank you, Shalini. Now we move to the next round, which is a question and answer round. We get a little deeper into this topic. And to start this discussion with, we have Mr. Hirsch with us. So the question to you is that first, how is the gig economy being used in large organization like that of Tata Power? We can pass on this.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in my opening remarks, considering the context how gig is defined, conceptually it is not applicable to large enterprises, because large enterprises operates on assets. An asset is something which runs 24 hours, assembly line or your processes or anything. And when anything runs on 24-hour basis, it can't be made a side hustle from the enterprise perspective. But yes, within those processes, there are activities which gets outsourced, where you call in some experts for cyber assessment or something. So anything which is a short time bound outsource activity is a gig within our enterprise. Or when you construct a building or a infra, you depute some contractors, so that becomes a gig part. And in a company like us, who is a utility, we deploy a lot of outsourced staff for managing our network, for meter reading, meter installation, etc. But those are covered under labor laws, because those are employable under semi-skilled, skilled or unskilled category. And because those jobs are long term. The people needs to know the system. It's not like today he comes and sees which network is flowing through there and tomorrow he gets out. So it's something long-term employability under labor laws, but it's a kind of gig work wherein people at times, these are all skilled jobs wherein during farming seasons, most of the electricians go back to their villages. So there's some movements keeps on happening, which the contractor ensures that he brings in other experienced people to manage that job. So contextually, gig is not operationally active in enterprise. Concept-wise, yes, in parts and pieces. But as an enterprise, our responsibility lies ensuring that we are fair in paying wages. So irrespective of what kind of work we outsource, we ensure that the contractor pays the minimum wages as per the laws. Contractor ensures that the employees have a PF registration and a ESI coverage. We include all those employees in our local monthly quality and safety council meetings to discuss any issues with civic amenities or any work related aspects. We involve them in our process improvement projects. So while they are not permanent employees, they are part of our ecosystem. So, and that's where the thin line, whether how to treat them becomes important. Because we are dealing with people, whether law covers them or not is a different thing. Law will evolve on its own. But as a corporate or as an enterprise, how you deal with people becomes important. Being fair, ensuring their safety and basic amenities, and having an overall governance structure so that they also grow as you grow.
Perfect. Then we move a little to the management students. No, I still one more question.
Yeah.
So this is for the management students. What skills should management students develop that you think of in order to work sustainably in the gig economy?
So okay, if you want to have a startup or you would freelance your expertise, the skills you need is you should have a deep depth in your skill. Not having a certificate will help. You are a Python certified or data certified, certificates will not help you to grow. You need to have deeper skills, not wider skills if you enter into gig economy. Second, you need to be disciplined, because these are task-based and outcome-based jobs. You will fix a timeline, how to deliver, when to deliver. So, discipline, depth, then you need to be ethical. In case you are outsourcing some of your work to someone else, you ensure that you pay fairly to them. Lastly comes I would say knowledge of you need not to be a compliance expert. India have hundreds of acts which an enterprise needs to comply when they operate, but you should have minimum basic knowledge of labor laws, factory laws and other statutory compliances, so that in case the thin line gets broken and gig becomes a part of formal employability, you are ready for those things. So that's what, so there are softer aspects and hardcore managerial aspects which you should learn as part of your curriculum.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, to Mr. Sonal Sehgal, since you have a startup of your own, we would like to take questions around that. So, startups, they often depend on gig talent to scale quickly or rather substantially. In this scenario, how does the gig economy create opportunities for startups and also social enterprises?
Okay, very valid question. So for startups and social enterprises, so gig economy is opening, I would say, so there, see in traditional, so I've been a part of the corporate as well. So I also come from a family business background where my dad runs a big industry, but I decided to start something. So I understand what it takes to, run a business basically. So what we talk, when we consider in gig economy, it gives us, gig economy actually enables the startups to have on-demand talent, capacity building. Now, for example, in large-scale organizations, I would say, Harsh, you are running one. So there's immense manpower, but the capacity building, the very first thing, and second, the sort of skills that are required in terms of, whether the entire manpower is productive. Maybe yes, maybe no, or maybe there's always about we always keep talking about the efficiency. We keep talking, we keep discussing about the productivity as well. Since gig economy is outcome based, can you come with your question?
So it is about how gig economy workers, they contribute to startups and social enterprises.
All right. So how gig economic workers are contributing to the startups. Now,
yes.
See, the very first thing is startups have access to all the workers. Earlier, we had to have there's a fixed payroll persons, individuals with us. Now I can engage for example, any startup can engage anyone from across the country. First of all, right? I can run a company in Delhi, and I can have somebody from Coimbatore or from let's say tier 2, tier 3, or even a creator from regional level such as Northeast. Be a part of my campaign for the very first thing, while talking about scaling up, all the formal businesses, they at one point, once this, after the establishment, they decide about that they want to scale, marketing comes in, gets activated. Now for marketing, there's a new, recently the finance minister introduced the word orange economy, which is the creator-led economy. So this is also a part of the gig economy, the creator economy, Now, since the outcomes are already, we've been observing this influencer or content creators or collaborators basically for the last 10 years or since 2013 and 14 onwards. So they are actually a part of the gig economy as well. So how they are coming into the scenario is, their deliverables are outcome based. Second, after this, I would say, for the social enterprises, certainly the social enterprises now can access regional influencers, collaborators, while just being, at the fixed place. So that's like more generic.
Okay. And the another one that we would like to know is that what role does sustainability play while hiring gig workers in pertaining to your organization or say to any startups?
Well, that's a very crucial and an important point. The sustainability plays a very important role. The very first thing is, because I engage a lot of gig workers myself. Now, it doesn't mean just somebody who's just doing a full-time. Now, for example, in my organization, some of my content production teams, they are full-time IT employees. Right. But beyond their working hours, let's say they are passionate about content production. Apart from that, there may be somebody who's somebody could be running a full-time family business, but the family business isn't into a traditional business, but they are doing complete. Let's say a website developer is actually a video editor who's working with me, but he's so passionate about video editing that he's able to contribute within those 2-3 few hours, and the productivity and the efficiency is far better. So we are happy. Everyone is happy at the end of the day. Now, sustainability. The very first important is equal pay. Somebody raised the point here. we have to look after the fair pace. That's very important, that since we are talking about outcome based jobs, so we should treat them with dignity. We should talk about fair pace, that the outcomes, fair compensation should be there. There should be some sort of structures that, okay, hey, this is what you deserve and this is what you have earned, basically. Second thing is the governance. I would keep into consideration when I talk about governance from the sustainability point of view. How are we managing the data part? How the data is being managed. For example, now these gig workers have access to a lot of data. Now it's equally important that because of this new DPDP rules as well, and in Europe there are GDPR rules. Yes. Now how are organizations or startups, now it doesn't matter whether you are a very well established enterprise or a social enterprise or a startup, it's our own, I would say, responsibility that we need to understand that what are the systems and structures we are putting into place, that how the data is managed, whether what do you do after to the data after the let's say the engagement is over. Third point I would put focus on is yes, the return to work professionals. First of all, let's say women who are after their maternity leaves, they wish to come back. So one important observation we have focused where we engage, we keep on hiring a lot of, throughout the year we hire a lot of professionals. So women face a lot of challenge because they have a certain, let's say a year or a 2 year or a 5 year break, and then they want to return back. The very first thing is ki last 5 years you have no work experience. So how do we engage you? The organizations ask. So this gives them an equal opportunity platform. Gig economy, you are engaging them. Second, some professionals decide to take a leave mid-careers, or they wish to pursue education. Now they're coming back. So this gives them, this helps them with the sustainability part.
Perfect, thank you. Now we move to Mr. Naveen Tandon. So he is from a consulting firm. And the question to you is that what are the biggest challenges company face while managing gig workers, especially in the field of consultancy?
So I think, guys, if you would have heard, right, compliance, equal pay, these are some of the critical pieces which are important when we talk about sustainability. Now, coming back to the field of consulting, right? The entire industry was hit with a lot of memes in last 6 to 8 months, and I cannot deny those memes, right? They are raising adequate, extremely right points. And today, if you look at our structures, the typical pyramid, that there would be a partner who would be going and hunting projects in the market, and then there will be a bunch of people who will be there sitting and delivering it, right? And if you talk about pure play strategy consulting firm, pure play system integrators, the firms with a leading transformation, it's no more about having headcount or having, guys like coming from pedigree, having strong signals that we have people from ABCD schools, and therefore, we are the best for you to work with us. That conversation has long gone. Today, in the world of AI, and, it would be something which is kind of contradictory, but at the same time, if you as an individual want to go and drive a transformation agenda for a client, you would be able to do it. And not only on the business side, but also on the tech side of it, where a product has to be developed and given back. And that's where this entire AI comes into play and has become a major enabler, or rather a catalyst for business like us to go and experiment with the gig side of the workforce, right? Now, we all spoke about, and in our daily lives, we see Zomatos of the world, the Ubers of the world. But a major disruption is happening at the top as well. So tomorrow, let's say, space is a new industry which is going to come up. India has ambitious targets as part of GDP contribution coming from space. But as a Deloitte, if we have to go and do consulting for, let's say, ISRO, do you think we have space scientists sitting with us? Not really, right? But we still need the domain know-how. If I have to talk about ISRO planning to get into commercial satellite launches, need to have a commercial mindset, need people who understands business, who also understands the industry. Would I go and start building a team from the scratch? Or whether we as a consultant would advise them to do that? The answer is no. It will still be a mix of experts, domain, so to say, strongholds, getting married with your regular profiles of a CEO or a C-suite, right? And, Avantik and I were just discussing a journalist turning into a CEO. Now, that's where the power of gig has actually comes in. And tomorrow, if you choose consulting as one of your career domain, while there used to be a talk about the T version of capability, I think it has inverted. Now it's not limited to having the horizontals. Horizontals are great. Those are brass tacks, table stacks. If you want to learn about a new industry, just go put some good prompts. You'll feel yourself as equal to somebody who has spent 2 to 3 years in that industry. But if we talk about, let's say, sales force effectiveness, do you understand how the channels operate? That is the differentiation what clients are looking for. That is the differentiation what we are trying to bring in. And that's when, going and hiring a bunch of analysts, a bunch of consultants, and then solving that problem may not be the ask of the future. It will still be very much dependent on, do you know the sector, do you know the function, and do you have that core capability, right? So that's one piece of knowledge. And I think another piece that we have picked up, and I'll try to draw an example. Somebody who has entered into, let's say, a BTech course doing computer science, by the time the 4-year course or a 5-year program at IITs or other great institutes get over, that guy would be irrelevant until and unless they have picked up a language, a skill, and they have really gotten as deep as they could, right? Recently there was a news on Cloudy launching such a super powerful automated tool which made the entire Nifty IT index go down by 10%. Huge, right? TCS of the world, Infosys of the world, they were all GDP drivers. Now today all of that is getting challenged. And that's where tomorrow, and I know one of the panel members picked up on that, you will not be doing a 9-to-5 job. It will be based on what expertise you bring to the table, and you may also not be working for one entity. You might be working for 4 different entities, but still providing that domain know-how. So yeah, so that's where I think the future is going to lead us.
Adding to that, though, what I'm going to ask you, partially Sonal has already addressed that, but it is related to the fair pay. So how can businesses ensure that there is equality, fair pay for the gig workers?
So I think when we talk about fair pay, we also need to see what part of the organization are we keeping into consideration. So definitely individual contributors need to be very much attained in terms of the compliances which are there, right? Like Harsh talked about basic minimum pay, ECSI guidelines, etc., etc. On the flip side, right, when we talk about the top of the pyramid, the domain experts, the domain know-how, I think it will be more of the guy who holds the skills and the power will rest on their side on how much can they demand. And that's where when organizations usually go about deploying expertise from the gig pool, make sure that the output is linked with the pay. And it's extremely critical for any CEO or the CXO to associate the business value. Until and unless that business value that needs to be derived out of that engagement is clear, most of the time deploying an expert at that level will not deliver the right results, right? So two lenses to it. One is the individual contributor lens at the bottom of the pyramid, where compliances become really important. How can you make sure that a certain amount is promised to them? That's where minimum pay, promised delivery. For example, when you speak to any of the delivery guys, they'll say that, sir, if I go and do any delivery, I'll get minimum 20 rupees. But then there is a distance-based pay as well, right? So rewarding them for their effort. On the top, it's more about what value I desire and therefore how much should I spend, and have a ROI sense to the engagement. I think those are two critical pieces that needs to be looked into.
Thank you, Naveen. Now we move to Mr. Rahul Jain. So in your field, and which is related to creative world, so what challenges do creative gig workers face today and how can they overcome them?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question. Thank you for asking that. So because in our community we have a lot of creative entrepreneurs and professionals. We are around. So one of the biggest challenge which we have seen is the lack of, say, certain demand, or we can say uncertainty in demand, which creates volatility in income, lack of predicted cash flows. So it's a very big challenge. So what are we doing towards that? We need to ask ourselves, because all of you would be either professionals or entrepreneurs. So all of you are part of creative economy, yes or no? So that's why now we need to ask ourselves whether network is net worth. Isn't it? Network is net worth. If we start working on our network, then it will lead to consistency in demand, consistency in cash flows. So you need to identify 5 people amongst your, we say it as a circle of trust. So start with just 5 first and start giving them connections, start helping them, start resolving their challenges. So what you give around, that comes around. There is a famous saying. So you will start getting the connections and start getting the demand. So that is one thing. Second is, because it's it can take hours and hours to discuss about it, but I'm just giving 1 or 2 important points. The second point which I feel is underpricing. That's a big challenge for a creative entrepreneur or professional, that they don't price adequately and they go into losses or they have stress then. So how to tackle that? What we need to do that? So we need to ask ourselves, what is our niche? Is there any differentiation factor? How can we be different? What are we doing to be different? Because if we are doing the same thing, then we'll keep on getting the same result. So if we have some differentiation point, like earlier the taxis were like that, but then when Uber came, it actually disrupted the business model, and now you can see it is the one of the wealthiest company in world. Same way Google, the Google search, it created the differentiation. Now you can see AI, how it is now replacing Google search. So that is what differentiation you can do. So for that you need to introspect within and identify your core strengths, and then identify what's your competitive advantage. And can you outshine that from others? So through that. And the third factor is, which is a big challenge, which is like funding. But I will say funding is never a challenge. if you have a good customer problem to solve, and if you have got a team and perseverance, then you will get, then actually investors will come to you.
Also, what advice would you like to give to students if they want to start freelancing, rather gig, working in the gig economy a little early?
So already I've given a lot of advice. But yeah, first thing which I will share my personal experience. I am also a gig professional by core of my heart, because when I started my own business, like Sonal shared, he had a family business. Same way we have a family business, but then I started on my own. And luckily, when I started, or unluckily, I started on my own, so I didn't had my close network which was into that business. So I was just chatting with my friends and all, what to do, how to get clients. So friends actually started helping me. And first of the very big projects I got from one of my friends' reference, and that client was from Canada. So it's like one of the very good input which I can share is कि एक मुहावरा है हिंदी में, बगल में छोरा और जग में ढिंडोरा. So sometimes you have got network within amongst yourself only, but are we doing guftagu with them? The idea is let's connect with them, let's connect, care and collaborate. That's why we say these 3 C's are important.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Rahul Jain. Now we move to Shalini Ravla, and since your work is majorly around research and analysis, so there are a few questions from that area. First is, how is the gig economy changing the way market research projects are conducted today?
Before I get into how it impacts my industry, I think we should use the change in gig economy as a placeholder, and then you can fit in any industry under that. Okay, how is the gig economy changing? Sonal had a family business. He had a family business. What has happened is that one person who began as a gig worker is actually now an employer himself. Okay, he's employing many people. So within the same entity, you are seeing that he is the employee, he is the employer, he is the producer, he is the contractor, he is a mini enterprise. So far our discussion on sustainability has been always that, we should do this for the workers. Forgetting that actually that gig worker is entrenched in the center of things, and we should be doing and thinking like a gig worker if we have to bring about change in sustainability. Let me explain. Sustainability so far has been expressed as a corporate objective of ESG, which is environment and social, economic and governance, right? Now, why is it that always we are looking at the corporate to do something for the employees? You have to do fair wages, you have to do decency in work, whatever, all those things. So you forget that this kind of, we who are sitting here, we are not just the upscale gig workers. We are also, if you look at, in one of my researches, there was a guy who was a cabbie, one of the Uber cabbies, and he actually was in the evening doing drop delivery service. Okay, so he's also becoming an employer there, because he's hiring some people whenever there is a workload, then he would hire college students to say, do my delivery drops. So he's actually wearing too many hats. And so therefore, what we are saying is that if you don't translate the sustainability objective to the employee himself, because that person, the gig worker today, is representing the corporate. So we need to then look at that from this perspective. We need a redefinition of sustainability in the gig economy. It's almost like turning it to saying sustainability of the gig economy. So we need to understand what are the core purpose. Rahul talked about the purpose, okay? What happens mostly is when a corporate has to attain their goals, they are talking about my purpose is this. So their employees are roped in, saying that, okay, now you deliver on these CSR objectives. Their hope is eventually it will become a habit to them, and that will translate into sustainability from their end. And the employee's hope is that I will get a good, it is a KRA on my resume which has been achieved, I'll get good assessments. So that's what I want to kind of, invert, because like Naveen said, that it's also at the top. If it is talking about a senior most scientist in space, he is also being responsible for some other people, okay? So it's not as if he's the only gig worker. So it's not in a silo that we are talking about these things. So it's interconnected. Like sustainability is a very interconnected concept between environment and humans. Similarly, the gig worker is an interconnected concept of me being the employer as well as the employee. So self-ESG is what will get you there. So if you look at research, now coming to my research industry, in 2019 we became very light. It was not even, the work from home concept had not begun. But the millennial workforce that I was hiring at that time, they just hated the concept of 9-to-5 job. They said, we are very responsible, you give me the assignment, I'll get it done. Don't get into these corporate structures, okay, because they don't like structures. They wanted freelancing, okay, so the freelancing had begun at that time, and there was co-working space which was happening. So what we said, we became very asset light. We sold all our assets in the office, TV, video conference, etc., because these are all shared resources in the co-working space. And when that happened, before even COVID started, these people said, I don't want to come 9-to-5 to this office, even if it's a co-working space, don't want to do that. So you have to listen to your employees and figure out what are they really going towards, what is their motivation. And that purpose becomes the employee purpose, which you need to figure out to deliver on the sustainability objectives. So now we are a completely gig economy where we have independent freelancers across India. Whichever city I have to go to, I just speak to them. They may be doing parallel work with others. They may be employing a different team. Even I'm sure you have a team when you do your podcast. It's not just that you are a solopreneur. You have many other teams besides you, and you're working with them and they're working for you.
Yes,
so that's the change.
Absolutely. So just one sub-question from what you mentioned. You mentioned about self-ESG pertaining to the employees, specifically to the employees, and maybe to the employers as well, who themselves are also gig workers. So can you elaborate on that a little bit? How can they map this ESG for them? I mean, just a demo model maybe.
Okay, so this is actually right out of my research that I had done on gig workers. So there are different motivations that actually drive each one of us, okay? So we are not a uniform cohort. I'm calling us, all of you all are gig workers, because I foresee that happening, okay? So if we assume that we are all gig workers, we are not uniform in our thinking. There are different dreams and achievements and goals that we have. So there are different segments that we arrived at. So they were millennial giggers who never had a corporate job, but they straight away started companies, okay, and startups. That was one segmentation. The other one was a multitasker, money saver, okay, because they wanted to do parallel jobs, they wanted to really get money. So that is another kind of a motivation, because money was the motivation for them. The millennial gig workers' motivation was completely different, because they wanted to experience different things. So if you look at Arijit Ray, okay, Virat Kohli, Palki Sharma, what is common amongst them? Sleepy? Wake up. What is common amongst Virat Kohli? Back there. What is common amongst Virat Kohli, Palki Sharma, and Arijit Singh, not Ray. India.
No, something which has to do with the recent developments, their recent announcements.
Yes, and retired when? At the peak. So the millennial workers are actually looking at an achievement which has satisfied them. They are not interested in kind of prolonging it. They are wanting to look at the next new chapter in their lives, okay? So it's not as if they'll stop working, but there will be another gig which will excite them. So that's the kind of millennial gig working motivation, the millennial gigger I call it. Their motivation is very different. The third could be a completely skilled craftsman, which is like an actor, director. They have been continuing with this. They don't want the corporate job of 9 to 5. They said, just take the project turnkey basis, and they kind of do all those. So there is a different motivation for each of these segments. So we need to understand in your team, who are these